I think this is a turning point for Syria. It should not be used by its neighbors to encroach on the territory of Syria. It should be used by all those in the region and beyond to support the Syrian people so they can choose their own path, so they can work on a transition that is Syrian-led, that is Syrian-owned, that is inclusive, where all the minorities, the myriads of minorities that are in Syria feel safe and feel they are part of the Syrian nation.
Okay, good morning. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here a little bit.
We are continuing to see Israeli movements and bombardments into Syrian territory. This needs to stop. This is extremely important. Let me then just give what I would call 3 key messages. We need to continue to stress the protection of civilians. I have appealed to the armed actors to maintain good contact, law and order, and to protect civilians in line with international humanitarian law and preserve public institutions. And as I said, I've heard positive statements from the HDS and the other armed groups that they intend to continue to reassure civilians that they want to be inclusive, especially with minorities. My second point, linked to what I said a little bit earlier, we need to continue to work for de-escalation. We need to see a stop to the Israeli attacks, and we need to make sure that the conflict in the northeast stops, and we need to make sure that there are no conflict developing between the different armed groups. But then third, and this is perhaps today my most important message, we need to focus on the need for credible and transitional arrangements in Damascus. This means that there needs to be what I call orderly arrangements. But it also means, and this of course, I don't need to repeat it, but it's extremely important, it needs to be inclusive arrangements. That is ensuring the representation of the broadest possible spectrum of the Syrian society and the Syrian parties. And let me say that if this is not happening, then we risk new conflict in Syria.
Is taking the power in one country. What is your recommendation to all the countries that are
extremely important that we don't see any action from any international actor that destroys the possibility for this transformation in Syria to take place.
Have you had any engagement with Israeli authorities on the appeal that you're launching to cease the bombings?
On Israel, I am not in contact with the Israelis, but of course the United Nations in New York, they are. And, the peacekeepers on the Golan Heights are, of course, in daily contact with the Israelis. And, of course, the message from New York is the same, that what we're seeing is a violation of the disengagement agreement in 1974. So we will obviously, together with our colleagues in New York, follow this extremely closely in the hours and days ahead.
Thank you very much. Please stay. We will wait for 2 minutes for Mr. Pedersen to leave, and we will continue with the briefing.